when you launch is when people care. That's the one time it's okay to pitch PR and actually get results from it. Now let's talk about launch marketing. You've built up an audience, you have your ebook, you've been doing some cold email, hopefully you've been getting good feedback. You're ready to essentially get out there and talk about your product more publicly. So here's the 6 launch tips I recommend. First and foremost, use Product Hunt. Get on Product Hunt. This is the new TechCrunch. This is the new PR, in my opinion. It also gets you credibility, just as TechCrunch would 10 years ago. It's not as hard to get. The one thing here is that if you can't get on TechCrunch, it means you got to go back to the drawing board. The easiest way I recommend to do this is start befriending those influencers. Again, those influencers that hopefully you interviewed earlier, you built relationships with during your pre-launch phase. One of them has to have a Product Hunt account that can submit stuff. And so look through who does. In fact, when you go to the influencer stage and you're interviewing them, definitely let them know that you're going to launch soon and ask them for that favor during that interview process, so that way you can kind of plan it. You're on Product Hunt, let's say you make it, email your list. Hopefully you've built a few hundred, a few thousand, hopefully even more, but email them. Even if it's a few hundred, it could still help you get votes, get traction, and get the word out. This is the time to pitch the journalist. At the end of the day, when you launch is when people care. That's the one time it's okay to pitch PR and actually get results from it. You have to have a unique angle, and I can go on forever on how to pitch PR. I have a lot of blog posts on sujanpatel.com on how to do PR pitches, but essentially keep it short, sweet, make the value add about them, and link to the Product Hunt listing so they can see that you actually are a real company, you have some validation and whatnot. Email your friends and family. Get those upvotes. Get everybody talking about it. Send more cold emails about the fact that you're launching, right? So save some of those cold emails at this point. And lastly, anyone who comes to your website, retarget them and send them more demo and more ebook ads on Facebook specifically. I like this because now you're doing, one is the demo ads are sales driven and the other ones are value add content, because let's just face it, if you get an ad on an ebook, you ignore it. If you get a sales ad, you might not be happy about it and whatnot, but nobody cares if you're sending out value. No one gets annoyed about giving too much value out. And at the end of the day, timing is very, very critical, because everything you've done on the audience building side and on the launch is all compounding. So the better you get your timing, if you get everything kind of teed up in that 24 hours or in that 1 week launch window, the better results you're gonna get. And again, your friends and family will support you. You have to just ask them. It's a small little win. I'm not gonna move mountains, but every little bit helps. This is a screenshot here of I bought a company called Pick.co last year. Actually was a big fan of it. Company went under, so I picked it up because I just wanted to continue using it. But I just posted a Facebook message, and a lot of my aunts and uncles and friends and random people actually found it. And we got a couple dozen customers from it, but it does work. All right, so you've had a good launch. You've built up your audience. You have an ebook now that's getting email opt-ins. You're ready for some prime time launching. First and foremost, and this is more of a framework than it is a tactic here, but do the math. And do the math on your genius ideas. And I'm going to share with you the framework I use at all my startups. It's a simple spreadsheet, but what I mean by do the math is, let's just say you have this idea of like, hey, I'm going to do some co-marketing or co-promotion. I've got a friend or a company that's willing to email their list. They have a 2 million person list. Well, if you do the math, a 2 million person list, okay, let's just say the open rate is 30%. 30% of 2 million people, a lot smaller, right? Now, the click-through rate of 30% is going to be, let's say, great numbers, 10%, which is usually kind of high or really high, but let's say you got 10%. Then they come to your website, and what are you going to ask them to do? Maybe join your webinar, maybe it's a sales demo, or maybe it's a conversion. Either way, the numbers get smaller and smaller. And at the end of the day, if you do the math on how many estimated webinar signups you're going to get from a 2 million person email list, I guarantee you it's going to be a lot smaller than you think. And what I mean by this is that it just means you got to focus on those bigger ideas. And you got to go back to those 3 channels and make sure you focus on those right ones. Too many people get stuck in this and don't do the math on their genius ideas. They spend a lot of time and they look back 3 months and they realize, oh, this idea I had only is going to generate 10 customers. So here's that framework I was talking about. I use this Google spreadsheet, and you can use it here. It's available for download for free, but essentially it's 3 tabs. I have my ideas, I have my Ondeck, the things I'm working on, and I have my KPIs. So this is the ideas tab. This is all of my ideas. Those ideas I come up with when I'm in the shower, when I'm having beers with my friends, those things I think they're great, but I don't really care if they're not. And these are the things like maybe my customers tell me, my employees, what have you. I put them all down. Then, sometime later, usually for me, every Monday, I do weekly sprints, but you can do monthly, whatever interval that's not the same day, because you want to sleep on that. You want to take your idea that you had yesterday, sleep on it for a few days, and then when you're actually ready to implement, add a metric. What is this? What's the predictive? Add some prediction or estimate of what this is going to do for you. Put a metric down, because when you put the metric down, it solidifies how much effort you should put into it. And when you actually add metrics to all your genius ideas, quote unquote genius ideas, you're going to realize how many of them actually can move the needle. And naturally, nobody here wants to waste time. Nobody naturally wants to waste time. They're going to do the things that move the results, move the mountains, that are going to actually drive the most customers. So naturally, you're going to find the ones at the top are going to float to the top with the highest impact. And keep your KPIs on that same document, meaning if you care about customers and users or visitors or email opt-ins or whatever it is, active customers, active users, whatever, put them down and measure against that KPI. So for me, this is an example of Narrow.io, one of our companies. I care about visitors. I care about my visitor trial conversion rate. I care about the number of trials I get per month. I care about the number of new customers and the visitor and the trial to customer conversion rate. And lastly, I care about my churn rate. Obviously, revenue is an impact of all the other numbers, but if these numbers look off and all of my on deck are the things I'm working on, let's just say my churn is high 1 month or 2 months or 3 months in a row, and I'm focusing all on top of the funnel on the on deck, then I'm doing something wrong. I'm not doing what's best for my business. So this drives this and this. So it's kind of working backwards for my KPIs. All right, so let's say you've done this, you come up with your ideas. One of the things I found is when you actually come up with these ideas, make sure that you don't implement them at the same time, because there's 2 different parts of your brain. There's the creative side who is like, oh my God, I can do this cool PR thing. I have this great idea. It's going to do well. And then you have your logic side who's like, well, let's do the math on that. So they don't work well together, at least not at the same time. So split them up. That's why I like to sleep on it. That's the very simple reason I like to sleep on it. And remember, it's okay for those bad ideas. I call them bad because they usually are, but those crazy ideas to kind of sneak through and just devote enough time to them, because every CEO, every company has kind of those ideas. So it's good to let them go through, but don't spend all your time on them. All right, so I'm going to go through fast on these ones because there's a lot. I want to leave some time for Q&A, and there's a lot to cover. So concierge onboarding. If you're a new company, definitely try this. If you're in the SaaS space, what essentially this is dragging your customers through the finish line, giving them an experience via a phone or just some sort of personalized approach, because your software is not going to convert the best way possible off the bat. So you use this to figure out what the weaknesses are, what people are responding to positively, and then essentially you can implement that into your software. And when you get customers, treat them right. Buffer is one of my favorite examples of a company who does a good job at thanking their customers. Every single invoice they send over, it says thank you. And it's a picture of their team, what they're up to and whatnot. So it makes me feel like I connect with them even though I don't know them at all. Drift is another good company, but you can thank your customers. In fact, if you're only doing an online service or software, I recommend using handwritten thank you cards and mailing it to them. Why I like mail? Because they're not expecting it. They're usually surprised. And if you're too lazy to write your own handwritten thank you cards, or you have bad handwriting like myself, you can use a service like MailLift. They charge a few bucks per actual per card, but it's really easy. It's actually handwritten. And here's an example of Drift thanking me on social media. So I signed up for a Drift a few months ago, and they tweeted at me. And they have a whole account just tweeting at new customers. Not a huge deal. Didn't take that long, but a simple thing actually got me through the finish line. And you'd be surprised how little you need to do to actually get people to the finish line. It's making, usually when you're in a SaaS business, people are super excited up front, and then they realize, oh, I have to do some work. I'm gonna go busy, I got a meeting. Well, if you tweet at them, they may come back and actually activate, which is one of the biggest things, hardest things for a SaaS business. All right, a couple more things here is asking your customers for help, right? You get feedback. A lot of people are afraid about this, and you're gonna hear a great talk later today from Nikki on feedback and how do you leverage that. But it's very, very important. The other thing you can do before you go crazy with the referral program, implementing word of mouth or bloated software, ask your customers to spread the word. Ask your customers for a testimonial. They will do this. And if they don't spread the word, well, first, make it easy for them. Make it one click or whatnot. If they don't spread the word, no software is going to solve that for you. If an email can't get through to them, a bloated software or like a process is not going to work. So get it working there. All right, a couple tactics or hacks you can use. First, the NPS survey. If you want to get a lot of testimonials, I like to use the NPS survey. Essentially what you're doing is asking somebody a 0 to 10 scale how likely they would to recommend you to a friend or a family member or colleague. And the 9s and 10s, those are promoters. They were likely already promoting you. So you email them back, and you can actually just ask them, hey, mind reviewing us here or giving us a testimonial? And they will do it because they probably already are promoting you. Secondary SEO. We all know SEO takes forever these days, so I recommend using a hack. Secondary SEO, essentially finding blogs or Quora or third-party sites that you can essentially write on or post to try to rank. And what you can do is feel out that keyword, and if it drives some traffic, you should focus on it as a primary driver. Here's an example of me answering a Quora question. Actually, it's one of my employees at the time answering that question. That drove us about 10 new customers from that one Quora post. Another thing is live chat. There's multiple ways to do this, but you can drive leads from live chat. The simple way to think about this is look at your conversion rate, the average time it takes somebody to convert, add 5 seconds, and prompt live chat. Go to your pricing page, wait 10 seconds, and prompt live chat. And those two places are great places to start. All right, remember, there's only 5 real channels for growth. There's SEO, content marketing kind of fits in there as well, organic traffic, paid acquisition. There's the virality, word of mouth, kind of referrals, your customers essentially. Maybe that comes from your product. Sales, right? That always has worked traditionally. It's hundreds of years old, if not more. And other. Well, what is other? Other is not scalable. Other is this situational unicorn type thing that very rarely works. And don't bank on that. These are your outer channels in that bullseye framework. Thank you guys, and we have some time for Q&A, correct? Awesome.